Christopher Spera, and this is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 77. I want my pie to go from micro to mini. Recorded live Monday, February 12th, 2024, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I am Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief here at iTechGear.org. Joining us this week, we've got the regular, normal suspects here. The former contributing writer over at Gear Diary and currently the host of the Linux Link Tech Show and living in the Retro Arcade podcast. And of course, editor, senior contributor, and overall super writer here at iTechGear.org, Brother Joe McLaughlin. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Surviving. I guess I could say that. Weather was
good.
pretty nice over the weekend. And we dodged a bullet. There was supposed to be snow tonight and tomorrow, and that's not happening now.
Very nice.
Makes
Very
me
nice.
very, very happy on that.
Very nice. Also joining us with the dulcet tones from the greater Detroit area, the former contributing editor over at Gear Diary and Pocket Now, and of course, senior contributor, editor, and overall great writer, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
My tones are getting more dulcet as we speak. Oh dear.
I know. It's been one of those. It truly has.
We're good now.
And last but certainly never ever least, newly christened Swifty, and overall Kansas City Chiefs fan, and former, of course, co-owner of WUGNET Publications, Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin. How are you, sir?
Well, I am fine. And yes, I'm very happy that my Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And no, I don't care that much for Taylor Swift. And I thought the halftime show sucked. But other than that, sometimes, on a little bit more serious note, sometimes, I don't care how old you are, you need a little bump in the road to remind you that life is still a beautiful journey.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of folks out there going through a lot of trying times, but it's called life, and no one ever said it was all sunshine and roses. So hang in there. If you're having a bad day, it'll get better.
Amen. So, but you know what apparently is going on right now, and I want to push through these as quickly as we can because there's a lot of good stuff in this wonderful Apple segment that we've got here. But apparently, Vision Pro owners are struggling to understand exactly what they bought.
They are.
And what the heck is going on?
Yeah, all we read these days, I don't care if you're in our business or if in whatever you're reading, you're going to look and see and read about the Vision Pro because it's just the biggest thing right now.
Sure.
So, a lot of my comments are a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I mean, we got to have a little bit of humor in this too. So
we do.
I would say if your primary goal in buying one of these very first Vision Pros, if your goal is to have someone shoot a YouTube short of you wearing it on your walk to work, you've probably succeeded. I'm sure someone did. But in actuality, owners are a little bit struggling. They can't quite figure out what they just bought for nearly $4,000, but I'm sure they will. And it needs, as Chris Gavula said last show, it needs more apps. It's got to have developer support.
It does. This is not just a enhanced way to watch a movie, right? Or have a Zoom meeting or other kind of online meeting. I mean, this is supposed to be something more than that. True. It's not just a gaming device, right?
It doesn't matter if you're wearing a Vision Pro, a Meta, whatever headset, your VR thing you're wearing, you're still going to need that long metal reusable straw if you plan to drink coffee and wine while you have it on your head. I agree. The way it goes. So
yeah, and you're right about apps.
And being a little serious though here, the second thing you're going to have to find is some sort of way to mess with your strap, because this is becoming a big thing. And I've read it 5 or 6 times now. Owners are finding that the first strap that comes with this is totally unsupportive of the weight. The second strap is way uncomfortable. So the 2 straps that come with it don't work.
Yeah.
overall.
So you're strapped
they're
for straps, is
improvising.
what you're saying.
Yeah, they're
And I-
putting
yeah.
their own spin on things, and they're
And
changing it and
I'm gonna tell you
adding.
this. There's the same problem with the Meta headsets.
Was it really?
Their straps
Wow.
just suck, and they're in their third iteration of the device or fourth iteration of the device, and the straps still suck. And there's a whole. If you go on Amazon, you're going to see a whole third-party market for those straps. So I
Oh, I
guarantee
never
you this.
thought of that. You're
So
right.
I guarantee
Oh.
you this is what's going to happen with the Vision Pro as well. There's going to be this whole third-party market, like there is for most Apple products anyway. But I think that's what'll happen. People will come up with better, strap arrangements based on what is seen to work. There'll be third-party ones out there. It'll happen.
Point. Good point. But for most people, strapping on a headset's going to be a novel experience. I've not even done what Chris and a couple others have. I haven't used Meta or anything else, MetaQuest, but there's a lot to figure out here or get over, whatever you're looking, however you view it. But before you start to actually use it, and even Apple's legendary marketing department really couldn't avoid conveying, whether it's strange newness or new strangeness or whatever your viewpoint is. Bottom line is, a lot of folks think they just bought an expensive pair of ski goggles and they don't know what to do with it. But hey, we'll figure it out.
I think there's a lot of people who got into it who don't really understand where the state of AR and VR are today, and Apple doesn't help with their language. Their specialized languages, I like to call it. And I'm being
spatial
kind.
computing, something or other,
because it's really it's the same thing. But
yeah, one of the things Apple said was that they feel theirs is way better than the others out there because
in some ways
rival headsets don't have the rival headsets have a problem in comparing a range of real life examples, blah 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 blah. And supposedly the eyesight feature on this works really well. Chris Gavula, you've had more experience in this than I have for sure.
Well,
what do you think?
Well, remember, there's two things you're talking about here. So when you talk about eye things, there's obviously two things. One is, how does the set look when you're wearing it, right? The resolution is better on this and looks better than most of the current other products that are competing out there right now. You don't get the screening effect that you get as badly like you do on Metas and some of these other devices. But the other side of that is when we talk about that eyesight feature, and let's clarify for folks what that is. That's the feature where somebody coming up to you sort of sees a facsimile of your eyes and your face, the upper part of your face, from on the front face of the goggles, right, of the whole headset. And everything we're all seeing, and I think we talked about this in pre-show, but I have to agree, everything I'm reading says it just doesn't look that good. It looks
glowy,
and it doesn't look anything. It doesn't look anything like it does in Apple's pre-shows. And my gut feel is kind of like, well, nobody else even has it, so do I care? I don't personally, but maybe somebody. I mean, you're paying $3,500 minimum,
right?
Maybe you do care, at that price point. But to me, that wasn't why I would be buying the headset in the first place.
Well, the guy over at 9to5Mac says that he doesn't believe the issue can be resolved by a software update.
I would
really
agree.
Thinks it's hardware.
Yep, I agree too. It's the same thing that it's basically the same kind of screen technology that was in the 3DS 3D screen, the lenticular screen. It looks like butt. And that, to me, I don't, if I see someone wearing those, I know they're not going to be completely paying attention to me standing in front of them.
Of course not.
And it's a very dangerous thing to go riding around on an electric skateboard, especially in New York City.
Oh, it was not.
Well, I would argue that those people are stupid in the first place. I mean, regardless.
Yeah.
Because
all right. So he's a Darwin Award. So he's a Darwin Award candidate.
Yeah, because you could do you could do that. If you look at even at the current generation of MetaQuests, they have front cameras, and you could do that with those too, theoretically.
Right.
I wouldn't. I don't know why people would. Yes, Apple's rendition of what you're seeing through the cameras is probably a little better than most. I would agree. However,
the thing that bothers me the most, though, right? But the thing that bothers me the most about this is they're advertising this as, well, you can use it to do work, and I'm like, define work.
But they're not telling you to skateboard. But they're not telling you to skateboard down the street in New York either.
I mean, right? I mean, you you can take your work MacBook and you can make that screen bigger than the 16-inch MacBook Pro that you would probably have sitting there if you have the work provided MacBook.
Yeah.
All right. Like I do. All right.
Right.
But that's not going to be useful to me because I want more than one screen. So,
well, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
a problem right now. They're only doing one screen, but it can be a big screen. And some people are saying that's really great and they're having a great time with it and they're able to wear it for multiple hours and they're fine. And other people are saying, yeah, I can't even wear it for an hour without a problem.
yeah,
So
I don't see how it would be
Right.
comfortable with the
I think
compute
it's
with the
yeah.
with the straps
Right,
that are
right.
included.
I'm
So
with
And I
that's the
wonder,
thing.
and I wonder what, Larry, you were saying something else this week about the eyesight feature not working properly.
Well,
What's
that's what we're
going
just talking about. Yeah.
That's
what's
what we're
going
talking
on?
about, yeah.
What's going on? I mean, what's specifically eyesight?
That's what Chris just went over just now.
Yeah, we
No.
just talked about that. So
Yeah, eyesight is that part about when you walk up in a coffee shop at Starbucks or wherever, and you see somebody wearing this thing, you don't know if it's Billy Joe Bob or the Boogeyman or who. This helps you recognize who's behind that black
yeah,
shield.
but it doesn't
Mhm.
work well. And I
But it
think we
doesn't
all
work. It looks kind of bluish and
Mhm.
fuzzy.
ghoulish,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah. It looks like a ghost image of your
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
It
that's
said
it, like
it
a ghost.
really does from what everybody is saying.
It looks
That
if it looks kind of soft, right?
well, it's not just that. It's faded looking. You can't see it well
Right.
under certain lighting. You can't see it well, and I don't see that. And Joel was just saying, and I agree with him that I suspect it's a hardware. I think the author was saying the same thing. It's probably a hardware
Right.
issue. It's
Yep.
not a software issue that can be resolved. It's
Right.
hardware.
Okay.
So that's where we were with it. So I don't think it's a good feature. But again, my argument was I don't know. That wouldn't be my main reason for buying it in the first place. I would probably be buying it because I want the better visuals inside, right? That would be one of the reasons I
Quite
would
frankly,
consider
if
it.
I'm wearing this thing in Starbucks, I don't want anybody to know I'm
But again,
behind it.
and I would argue again, I wouldn't. I guess I'm the kind of person I wouldn't sit in Starbucks wearing a VR headset anyway.
No,
But
of course not.
but people do. I mean, but people do all kinds of things. Because they can.
I
So
mean,
there
we
you go.
had
Yeah,
I've
they
seen
do.
pictures with them carrying their
We
whole
have.
iMac
Yeah.
to a coffee shop to do work, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, we've seen
Yep.
some goofy things over the years, and people will do that. I'm reminded of that quickly. I'm reminded of that scene from Best in Show where the couple talks about meeting, and I was sitting in the Starbucks on my MacBook, and he was in the Starbucks across the street in his MacBook, and we saw each other, and it's that kind of goofy image. People will just build these whole kind of things around this. So I think this is going to happen with this device too.
Woohoo.
We're in for some crazy times, folks. That's all I can say.
Bottom
Yeah.
line is, I think time will prove that this is going to be a useful thing or not. It's that simple.
Yeah,
Well,
and I think apps will be the story. It will or won't, right?
Apps will be the story. I also think that there's probably some hardware upgrades that are going to need to be made. I mean, Tim wanted to wait until this thing hit the sunglasses kind of phase, right? And he kind of got overruled. The rest of the management team said, no. If we don't do this,
Huh.
we're never going to get there. And there's something here. We need to jump on this.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around, but okay.
No, I think
And
Tim,
in any case,
Tim
you're right.
originally wanted to wait.
There are things, but again, we also have to keep in mind this is a first in generation product
It
for
is.
Apple. For Apple,
It is.
they've had some learnings from other people who've produced headsets, and they did something. They did make some things better than what other people in headsets have done. So I'll give them that. But the point is, it's a first generation thing. Now you had to get it out there. Now we got to wait for the software. That's
exactly
the next piece of this.
Exactly.
So here we go.
Right. And speaking of software, I mean, you need programming languages and all that happy stuff for that. Apple's launched a new open source programming language.
Yep, they have. And unless you're a coder, you can probably take a 1-minute potty break or coffee break right now.
Very
because
quick bio break.
This report is pure geek. So Apple has officially on February 1st rolled out PKL. It's a new open source embeddable configuration language. And with this language, they're trying to take all the hard work and the pain and heartache out of the small to large or the simple to complex type of repetitive configuration tasks that programmers go through. It's designed around a typical key value structure. It's almost like if you know anything about JSON, it's it's a lot
Okay.
like JSON, but it uses imperative instructions that are much more similar to programming languages that people are more familiar with, like JavaScript and Python. And I never did learn Python yet, but I do code in JavaScript. That's probably the only thing I'm still proficient in. Apple's really designed this to specialize in configuration things, and along with some new little quality of life features to make heads turn when they see what this can do. So I don't know. It can be used with XML and YAML, and I don't know. It's probably yet to be seen. Nobody's really done too much with it other than test it, and I guess it really works. I'm not going to bother with it. It's not for me. But
What's
I
the
think
name of the language again? What was the name of
what's
it?
PKL, Papa
Pico.
Kilo
Okay.
Lima, PKL.
Gotcha.
Pickle is probably going to set as the moniker. Moves over.
Wouldn't doubt
Wonderful.
that. Wouldn't doubt that at
Wonderful.
all.
Yeah. But that's it. It was worth just a little shout for anybody that's a coder out there.
Seems they come out with something new every few years, doesn't it, for languages? I mean, they did Swift a few years back.
They do.
Every few years they seem to come up with something. So, but it's nice to see this is open source. So here we go.
Right. So we'll see what happens with this. I like to see, new languages come out. I like to see new capabilities discovered and socialized around. So we'll see if anything comes of this. But you know what I think is really kind of cool?
What is that?
I'm glad you asked. What I think is
you just keep setting them up and I'll keep bringing them home.
Thank you. What I think is really kind of cool is Apple has got some foldable phones, iPads, iPhones that are actively under development. Now we kind of knew this, right? I mean, they've probably got the kind of phones that you can go ahead and origami yourself together, and they probably have some Starfleet Enterprise kind of
Wouldn't you
stuff.
love to just wander their labs for a couple of days?
You'd never make it out alive. You'd never make it out alive.
They probably have a foldable car somewhere out there.
Somewhere. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
A foldable car. Yeah, that's probably true.
Well, given the way the project is going, I wouldn't doubt that at all. But I know that they've the article that we're citing indicates that they've got both the clamshell version. They've got the foldable long ways version, like the folds that are out there. So we had mentioned, I think, either last show or the show before, when we were talking about the OnePlus Open, that would be a decent place for them to start. I bet you that they've got at least that good of a crease. On their foldable devices. And I still wonder if they're going to be running a version of iOS or iPad OS, depending on how they fold, or both.
So the rumor, the additional part of the rumor is that if they're going to release a foldable, it'll likely be an iPad first, because the iPad doesn't have the same durability issues that a phone does. In that sense. So that's the thinking anyway. Whether that happens or not is another thing. As we all say, what do we say over again? Until until Uncle Timmy is standing on the stage, it's all just rumor, right?
Yes.
But that's the story that's out there right now, is that they actually are working on this. Well, we kind of knew it, but it was sort of confirmation that they're working on such a beast. And you and I both said this: if they come out with one, we're there.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And I can, to get like a Pro Max sized or oriented device that folded as a clamshell, I can stick that in my front pocket and not have to worry about it, which is one of the reasons why I like the Samsung Flips, right? I like that because you can stick them in that StarTAC styled case or holder on the side of your belt on your waist, and they're easy to pull in and out. You can stick them in your
So
front pocket and not have to worry about sitting on anything. They're very easy to carry with you and not have to worry about pulling those things out and getting them stolen, right?
But I think that. Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was going to say I think the last important thing about all this, though, is you're still going to be probably another 2 years or 3 years out from this happening.
Yeah,
we're not
I
there.
I wouldn't think anything were to come out until probably 26.
I got to say that
fall
I
26.
would, I might be wrong here, but I think they'll come out with the iPhone first. And the reason I would speculate that is in 2023, Apple sold about 68 million iPads overall. And in 2023, they sold over 230 million iPhones.
Yeah, but the
That's the
durability
only reason I think they might go for the dollar.
but it's harder to get the durability on a phone.
Oh
And
yeah, no.
But I think that's
don't
why
disagree at all.
I think that's
No.
why the rumor is that they'll do the iPad first, just because it's treated as a testing ground, if you will.
Maybe they could less chance of screw up.
Yeah, and it gives them more time to develop all the proper durability on the phone. That's the thinking. That was one of the theories. Don't know if that's true, but I would agree that from a financial standpoint, it makes more sense to do the phone first. It really does.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
but anyway, they're working on it, and
if it's a phone,
imagine,
I'm buying it.
I imagine sooner or later they'll come out with something, but not. But what did we say? They won't come out with it until it's good and baked.
That's right.
So that's Apple. They won't come out with it until they're ready.
Agree. But I know that there are a lot of folks that are, I don't want to say getting impatient. They're really excited to see what they will come out with. All right.
Sure.
They're really excited to see what they may do with it, what modifications, what apps, what utilities, what tools will be made available for it, what kind of cover screen technology are they going to put out there, etc. Right?
Sure.
So we'll see what happens, but I think people are starting to get excited about foldables. I think people are starting to get interested in what they can do, and if there is a use case that they might have that would work for them. And so they're trying to see, where can I find, the niche? Where's my niche? Can I scratch it? Right.
Where's my niche? Can I scratch it? Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Well,
so that's
that
where they
show
are.
title, didn't we?
Oh boy. We blew through. We always blow through show titles.
Very true. Very true. Anyway, so we'll see what happens. I mean, nothing has been truly announced. Nothing's been really even seen. I mean, we've seen some concepts.
No, but this is the closest we've gotten to any kind of evidence that they're actually really doing something.
Yes, which is kind of cool. Which is still kind of cool. So
yeah, don't know what, but they're doing something.
Absolutely, which is usually the way that it works. So I'll tell you though, what Apple is doing, and they are trying to publicize, is that they are actually joining Meta, Google, and of all people, Facebook, in an AI governance initiative.
About time.
It's kind of like an anti-Skynet sort of thing.
There you go.
So I guess President Biden had asked that big tech look into this. All right. And undertakes, we have been saying, we need bumpers. All right. So
we have been saying that.
We've been saying that we need bumpers around this. So I was talking to Joe the other day, I called him up on the phone. I said, "Hey, Joey, how are you?" Right. And he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Thank you. You remember me."
Tim sent me.
Mm-hmm. So apparently he and other folks in the administration are sensing the same kind of things, right? That you just can't have, the guy go out and, have the processor piece, take them in areas that they never would have considered before, right? You've got to put some guidance and some governance and some bumpers around it and say, yes, you can do this, and no, we cannot and will not do that. So,
well, you know what? If you go back in the show notes and listen, the very first show we did after AI hit the big stage, Chris Gavula said, "This is all well and good, but somebody better control it," or something like that.
yeah,
he did.
Yeah. Yep. So
I did.
So the government is saying that there's a significant role to play in setting the standards and development of the tools that we need to mitigate the risks and harness the immense potential of artificial intelligence.
Someone needs to put bumpers on the government if
Thank
they're
you.
going to get too involved
Thank you.
here.
Thank you. There should be, if this is truly going to be a government initiative, or at least directed by the government, there should be at least some guidance and governance around the governance for the AI. So,
yeah, that would mean Congress has to do something.
Through
President
Biden's landmark executive order, we will ensure America is at the front of the pack. And by working with this group of leaders from industry, civil society, academia, together we can confront these challenges and develop the measurements and standards we need to maintain America's competitive edge and develop AI responsibly.
Should I be saluting? Should I be saluting you now?
They do need some.
I would.
They
need
some consultants to help them do that, though.
Yeah, they do. They
absolutely,
do.
Absolutely. So some key names that are involved in this, besides Apple and Meta and Google and Facebook, Amazon, AMD, Cisco, Hewlett Packard, IBM, Intel, Microsoft, Northrop Grumman, which now that makes me nervous. The military getting there, because they're a military supplier, getting their hooks into this already.
Well, they're actually broader than that. They're a government contractor in the broadest sense.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm
saying.
They
bought the company that I first worked for. Yep.
Right.
I worked for them. Believe me, I understand.
Right. So the bumpers, some very, very quickly, there's a whole list of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullets in this article. I'm not going to go through them all. All right. In fact, I'm not even going to touch on them at all, other than to say, if you're interested in the executive order and what structure this governance is going to take a look, go through, hit the show notes and click the link. It'll take you to the Apple Insider article, which does have a link to the actual executive order, and then the summary of the 6 bullets. So
one interesting question, though, you were listing some of the folks who are involved. So Microsoft is actually involved in it as well. I'm kind of surprised at that, because they seem to be kind of going around it a lot right now. So it's interesting.
They also seem to be, chugging forward,
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're going forward as fast as they can before somebody clamps down on them.
Yeah, governance and guardrails be damned. They're full speed ahead with Copilot.
Interesting.
So
okay,
they might be doing this with in a CYA move to just
I think so. Could be. Okay, well, all right.
We're going to break the rules, but we'll help you make them while we're doing that.
Because I don't know that I want Copilot to be my Copilot, if you know what I'm saying.
No.
No. So,
like Copilot, take the wheel. I just don't see it. It just doesn't rhyme for me. Doesn't flow for me. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't flow for me.
No.
Someone asked me
a
about
country singer
Copilot
in a different part of the multiverse. Thank you.
Somebody asked me about Copilot today. I went down to one of my organizations I support, and I said, check out another library book. Take that one back.
No.
Man,
no.
I think that's what Waymo is going to use. They're going to use Copilot now. With their challenges lately, we'll see.
No, please. I got enough to worry about. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, what else we got?
And
what else we got to talk about?
And speaking of lawsuits,
we do seem to talk about them a lot. We do talk about them a lot, don't we?
of lawsuits. Apparently, Apple has settled a trade secret lawsuit with rival and Rivos. So, Chris, talk to me, Bubba.
I'm going to talk about a pair of lawsuits that are going on with them. And that's only 2? No, actually, there's a lot more, but these are the 2 we're going to talk about, because they had things happened this week. So
that's true.
The one with Revos, as you mentioned, is basically Apple had sued Revos, and they've now come to a settlement. So basically, that's not in the courts anymore. So that's one that came down, and it was a trade secret kind of thing. And Revos is going to remove some stuff, and who knows what else is behind the scenes in terms of their agreement. But apparently, they took a bunch of Apple employees. They theoretically took gigabytes of sensitive data and specifications, and yeah. So apparently they have to wipe their drives of everything or something to that effect. But the point is, there's a settlement, and that one's done. The other lawsuit that was going on this week,
the Alive Core, right?
The Alive Core one, because it kind of got buried under the whole was it Massimo thing? It kind of got buried in the tail end of that thing happening, which is still going on, by the way, folks. But you're kind of at it.
This could actually be a help to them, could it not? In that case,
theoretically it could be. So this is a situation where I think, if I remember correctly, Alive Core sued Apple on a number of fronts, on a number of patent fronts, basically it was in this case, what has happened this week is a federal judge dismissed the lawsuit that said that Apple had a monopoly over heart rate apps, and what I think, if I remember correctly, what Alive Core was saying was that Apple kept changing specs of the sensor, and short form, it was messing up the Alive Core software. Okay. So they were kind of upset about that, and they said that Apple was deliberately changing the sensor, which, quite frankly, anybody who knows anything about hardware development knows you don't change that crap on a dime. So no. I doubt they were, I doubt that was the case. They probably, what they did was came up with a new version, an updated, an improved version for their devices. Right. And Alive Core had trouble keeping up. But that's kind of what the judge said, kind of. They basically said, yeah, there's nothing here. Keep in mind, however, that there are still some other underlying lawsuits from Alive Core relating to Apple and Apple technologies that are not settled yet. Right. But this is the big one, and this one basically did not go in Alive Core's favor. It went in Apple's favor. So Apple's had a good week, I guess, from a legal kind of perspective.
Right. I want to make a couple more, just add a little bit more color to that last part there. In 2015, apparently, Alive Core and Apple were in talks, and Alive Core showed Apple its ECG sensor with the intention of future and further collaboration. And then in 2018, when Apple launched its own ECG sensor, the ITC ruled that Apple had infringed on Alive Core's technology, and that case never resulted in a ban of any kind. They still plan to appeal the ruling for this latest case that was ruled against them.
Yep.
All right. And this may have been a setback. This recent case may have been a setback, or the fact that Alive Core never did get a ban or any sort of support back in the 2015, 2018 sort of case that Alive Core had filed against it. But there's honestly, at this point, Apple's got enough money at this point that I really think it would just look. The people want these devices. There's been too many examples out there where help, I've fallen and I can't get up, and they're wearing an Apple Watch, and help arrives because of the watch. All right. Or somebody notices that they've got some weird things going on. The watch alerts them, and they go to the emergency room, and they don't die from the heart attack that they were busy cooking on the way there, right? Or whatever else. Apple's got deep enough pockets. Just pay the fees, pay the licenses, or buy the companies. One of those things. Just do something, and let's get past all this stuff.
Yeah, this is nonsense. Every little thing is now showing up in there. We already know the product is. That the Apple Watches are solid products that people want and will continue to buy. Apple doesn't have to worry about a revenue stream on them. Just buy these things, and investing in these companies is not going to hurt them at this point. Please just do it and be done with it.
And that's my point throughout all of this. Look, make this go away. All right. Yeah. Give those guys, buy or license the patents from them, buy the companies, buy the engineers, buy the software, whatever it takes. All right.
Do you think that the holdup is that in those markets, there's so much regulation in those markets that maybe they'll have more monopoly kind of problems trying to buy those products or those companies?
No, I think it is, having been in the medical device and FDA regulated areas for much of my career, it is a great deal to take on something like this. To become a medical device company means that there are all sorts of audits that go on multiple times a year.
Of course.
From whomever it is, not only the FDA or governmental agency audits, but you've also got second and or third party audits that you need to watch and prepare for. And there's a lot that's there. So it's not just the buying the companies, the patents or the licenses for the patents. It's more along the lines of, look, you're moving towards becoming, for this thing becoming a medical device, a licensable, a real honest to goodness medical device. Do yourself a favor, line up what you need to line up, and just,
I get you.
I
think so too.
Shia LaBeouf this thing, just do it. All right. Just do it. Jump in both feet. Please
pick someone better as an example than him. But okay.
But you understand what I'm saying.
I get what you're going.
Right. Just go ahead, jump in, find your SVP of devices and regulatory, or whatever you want to call it. Find your directors and your managers and get them in there and just get it together. You're moving towards being a medical device.
They've got a great product. Let's solidify it. Let's get
absolutely.
It together.
Let's take the steps. And I truly believe that they don't want to deal with all of the overhead, because it can be expensive.
It can be. Yeah.
It can be expensive. But to be very, very honest, the Apple Watch in all its varying flavors, and all you've got to really do is say, all right, I'm using this sensor here, here, and here. And there's no difference in the configuration for these things. So when I use it once, I'm using it the same way in every one. So therefore, and there's no major engineering changes around it, or however you want to go ahead and do it. Submit once, use everywhere, or as many places as you can. There's ways around this. There's ways to manage this. All right. You just need somebody that can soft shoe and schmooze enough to convince the people behind the regulatory bodies that you are in fact following the regulations. There's no difference in the use of this sensor in the Ultra 2 or SE or the regular this series watch versus the next series watch.
Yep.
It's the same. All right.
So once you do it, once you've done it. Okay.
Once you do, well, not buy once, use everywhere, but you can show through the appropriate validation audits or validation data that you have for implementing this device in this area over the course of how many years have 9, 10, 11 different versions of this watch, that it hasn't changed. They read things the same way. The same data is collected. All right. And then use that and then use the stability of that data to show that it functions the same way, regardless of any other engineering changes that you've made to the watch. All right. And then bring them in and let them see some of the, some of the ways that the sausage is made, or however you and then just move on.
Okay. Well, I think we're kind of got it there. So
Thank you.
Yep.
This is all I'm saying.
Cool.
Anyway.
and saying. No.
Yes.
I'm teasing.
So,
I got it.
So, but at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move us to our mobile Linux segment. Excuse me. Apparently, somebody got some pie.
Somebody got themselves some pie.
Yes,
they did.
Talk to me, Joel. Is it in the house?
It is. I have. I got it last week. Raspberry Pi 5, 8 GB version. I received it on, I think on the 7th, and I've tried both Raspberry Pi OS and Ubuntu on it. I got Ubuntu on it now. A friend of mine, a contributing host to the Linux Link Tech show, actually sent me as a gift a new, I'll say Chinese branded LCD. It's a weird weird name, Juan Lucy, but it does work. I'm actually using the screen with my laptop currently because it came with a mini HDMI input on the screen, and the Pi uses a micro HDMI. Actually has 2 of those micro HDMI ports and a USB-C port, which is used for, it can be used for both data as well as power. But it does not carry a USB-C screen compatibility, or it's definitely not a Thunderbolt port. So
that's a matter of voltage. That's a matter of voltage and firmware. So
yeah. So but the screen should work with it. It's a 13 something by 800, so it's not full HD, but it's good. It's going to be good enough for using with the Pi. Much better than the official screen, which I have on my Pi 4. Actually, my Pi 4, I haven't turned it on lately, so I need to do something with that. But there'll be more to come here once I get that the adapter. It should be easier to play. Right now, it's actually hooked up to my 40-inch TV, which means kind of unwieldy and kind of not as usable as it could be. It's a full desktop. I did play some videos on it with YouTube. That works fine. As long as you're keeping it 1080p or under. And I think that's primarily, it has nothing to do with whether the Raspberry Pi 5 can play 4K video. I'm sure it can. It's just the combination.
You're going to be writing this up for us, Joel?
Yes.
Yay!
Writing it up, and
we need to look
probably
forward to
more
that.
than one article, because my full intention here is, if you've ever seen CyberDex 2072, that's what I'm going to try and build with this one.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I want the long series. I want the regular contributions. Hit me up, Joel. Come on.
Yep.
So
we'll
good.
See.
Well, so more to come, guys. More to come.
Yes,
more to come.
It's all depending on my master's degree not interrupting me on this, which I'm starting that very soon. The coursework just came available today.
All right. Now, which is more important, though? The site, the show, or the master's degree? Come on.
Or just
that cost me the most amount of money.
or just playing with the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't do more radios, because everything gets in the way of radio. So
I hear you.
There you go.
Anywho, but be looking forward to that. Different alternatives. I will say this: SparkFun is currently still on back order for them.
Okay.
I just dropped a link, and Larry, you want to pay attention to that. I dropped a link to Newark Electronics. Okay. They have 404 in stock currently.
Oh, really?
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay.
So $80. Wow. I don't know what their shipping is. I haven't ordered from Newark, Newark is essentially what became of it, the Element 14 store. So,
well, it's $80, but it's kind of like Vision Pro. Before you get done buying all you want to get with it, it's a little bit more.
I will say this.
Sure enough.
I ordered the official Pi case, which does come with a fan.
Exciting.
And it also comes with a heatsink to stick on the CPU. That may be enough, but I opted for the cooler, which snaps on much more securely. The official cooler has basically two pins that plug directly into holes that are already in the board. So all you got to do is peel off the.
You run on the cooler and the fan, or
it will not
just
run on both. You
I
have
was
to
going to
pick
say
one or the other. It
Right.
doesn't fit in the case. Trust me, I tried.
Yep.
And not to mention the fact there's only a pin for one fan on the board anyway. So
Gotcha.
just like there's only a pin for one real-time clock battery, because this is the first one to include this battery so that it will keep the time when you power it off. So you do
So
not
the
have to
third
wait.
show title should have been "There's Not Enough Room in My Pie Case," right?
Yeah. But so
Yeah.
that's the cool thing is this is somewhat of a new version of the Pi. It's a little bit different. The ports are everything's more powerful, of course, and the ports change sides. The Ethernet was on one side, and it's on the opposite side with this one. So
Okay.
there are some compatibility issues with prior cases, but that I've seen there. I've already 3D printed at least one.
Very cool.
So there's all sorts of different options. You can even put I don't know if anybody's water cooled it yet. That would be kind of overkill. I don't intend to overclock this thing. It comes with the this is also the first one that has one piece of the RP1 chip, which is the Raspberry Pi Foundation developed piece of silicon.
I kind of wondered why they kept the Ethernet plug when they could have put they could have downsized that to a USB to female Ethernet and a little 2-inch adapter cable
or even just another USB-C port, because you can always plug it into a dock.
Everybody knows how to adapt
but it does have Wi-Fi on board as well, so that works just swimmingly well. The Ethernet port itself is very fast. I was able to get nearly what I got on my MacBook, which is hooked to Ethernet via the Thunderbolt port.
6 or 6E?
I believe it's 6, I think.
Okay.
So I have no problem. It's on the 6. It's probably about 100 megabit, which is a little bit less than what I would get on like my phone or a laptop. But it could be the limitation of where that Ethernet is tied to the bus. So because it could be tied to the USB, which means it's limited by the USB architecture.
So with all that said, somebody's done something pretty cool with it already, haven't they?
Well, it's not
lots of people
not
have.
Not a Pi
not this.
5.
This is actually
that's 5, but
that's quite less hardware.
I thought this said it was a 5.5. I thought that's what the story said.
It's a Pico.
No.
It's Pico. Gotcha.
It's a Pico, right? So, and to give everybody an update on what we're talking about here, some guy on YouTube who is just as much of a Linux / hardware / geek as you could ever want to be.
Yep.
How cool!
Cracked BitLocker with a Raspberry Pi Pico. Right. Now, Joel, what is a Raspberry Pi Pico before we go any farther? What is a Pico?
Yeah, the Raspberry Pi Pico, I believe it's not even what I would call a full Raspberry Pi. It's more or less a microcontroller. All right, so it's not even a full computer. It's a microcontroller, very similar to what might be used for 3D printers to run the actual 3D printing hardware.
Right.
You can program on it with a C and MicroPython. It does have some networking abilities, and it's also very, very cheap.
They're about $10 from what I understand.
Yeah,
somewhere around in that neighborhood, $10 or less.
Yeah, and now that there are some things that actually are good, and this is only going to impact your device. Well, one, I think you have to have physical access to it.
Well,
All right,
let's
so,
tell them what happened here
Yeah.
was that this guy on YouTube, his name is Stack Smashing.
yes.
All right. He went ahead and cracked the BitLocker encryption on a Windows drive. When Windows 10 and Windows 11 activate that, I believe by default, or at least they want to activate it by default to encrypt your data on your Windows drive so that no one can steal it. All right. Your drive is encrypted. You got to have the appropriate keys in order to unlock the data, which is all through your Microsoft account and your access to the Microsoft account, either through biometric or password, and then more than likely through an authenticator or two-party authentication. Anyway, he cracked this encryption, which is like 256-bit encryption. All right, AES encryption in under a minute.
Yep.
With a Raspberry in 43 seconds.
Yeah.
43 seconds. With
so basically, what
Raspberry
this
Pi
is
Pico.
right, what this is doing, it's taking advantage of the TPM module and intercepting the encryption keys. So it's not really cracking the encryption keys; it's intercepting them. So he has the keys,
Right?
And it does it in 43 seconds. And it's the TPM chip. Most PCs are going to be externally accessible. It's not built into the chip. Now,
Right.
the upside is now some more modern machines are including this TPM functionality onto the SoC,
Right.
which even Intel's starting to use SoC for
Right.
things. So,
Right. And
it's not
when it's an external from the processor, there's a way of tapping
correct.
into the lines of communication between the processor and the TPM chip and extracting that data because that pathway is not encrypted.
Correct.
Yeah. But you still have to have physical access to the device.
And you have to have
Yes, you still
physical
have to
access to the
have
device.
physical
Yeah.
access
So,
to
I
the
mean,
device, yes.
and it might even take him longer. It's going to depend on the laptop. Some laptops are going to take longer to get access to that chip. It's going to depend where that chip is on the board. Lots of things. So it's not like if you accidentally leave your laptop with BitLocker on unattended for like a half hour, that he may not. It probably won't be possible to do it.
He'd
It just
have to get
depends
it
on how
open.
good you are. Yeah.
He'd be sitting there with a soldering iron with the guts of your computer all over the doggone table
Pretty
and a
much.
soldering iron, et cetera, et cetera.
So it's
Getting
not
after
like
this.
you can do this remotely. So
No.
that's a good thing.
And
No,
it's not
you can't do
exactly
it remotely.
subtle.
You can't do it wirelessly. All right. You
But
have
it's
to have
interesting. It's
physical
still
access to the
fascinating how
device, et
fast
cetera.
once you have access, though, it's amazing how fast that can be done.
Yeah.
43 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing.
So,
Yep.
yeah. And just amazing. But, speaking of
Not amazing.
Google and AI.
Not amazing. Not amazing.
Not amazing. Yeah.
Apparently, Google has rebranded its Bard AI to something new, or at least to something called Gemini.
Yep.
Now, Chris, what's going on with this? I mean, is it really just simply a new coat of paint?
I think so.
Yeah,
At this point,
I think so too. I think it's I think that Bard didn't really
resonate.
Yeah, it didn't really say what they were wanting to say. I don't know how Gemini says it any better, but okay, people rebrand for a lot of reasons.
But
right.
Thank you.
Yep.
So still no guardrails.
Right. Yeah. So it kind of replaces some of the functionality of the Google Assistant as well.
I think they're
not
trying to
I will say that.
Yeah, I think they're trying to broaden the kind of viewpoint of it a little bit, at least in terms of its branding and marketing. And We'll see where this goes. Again, it's just a name at this point. Yeah, I'm sure that they view it as more than that, and
Right.
but all companies believe that their 12-step programs are the best. So there you go.
Well, apparently, from Google Gemini, which was Bard, all right, it's Google's AI, right, is available to everyone. But I guess the change logs where Droid Life is the site that we are citing for this
We are.
particular art piece of information here, took a look at the change logs for Bard and Gemini, and they found something called Gemini Advanced, which is
Yeah.
supposed to
Yep.
be the paid tier, all right, of this particular product. So if you're going to go ahead and drop off what Chat GPT is charging, what, $20 a month for their paid segment,
Something like that.
something like
So,
that. So I would expect something in a similar sort of pricing tier, although none
well,
of that information
yeah.
has been leaked, I mean
Well,
released
but
yet.
theoretically, you get to an AI model either way. But supposedly, you get to a better AI model with this advanced.
Right.
What that means, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And I think, the
Well, what
AI
this
is, well, I understand that they're trying to find a way to help finance further
Yeah.
development of the
Yeah.
AI, which is really what this is about. But people will not pay for it.
They want to
Um,
monetize it. Yeah, it's all about monetizing it. You're right.
right,
yeah,
people aren't going to pay for it until they see the benefit of it. Now, some of that benefit
exactly.
is going to be the Gemini
Well,
Advanced. Some of those things that it's supposed to do will be highly complex tasks like writing custom code. Hey, G, write a piece of code that does this. All right. Logical reasoning, following nuanced instructions,
yeah.
creative collaborations. Hey, write me a story that has, this kind of a plot mix. All right. Uses these characters and has them discover whatever. You do this thing, right? So
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's all. Yeah, and right, that's all theory, but theoretically, that's what you get with some of the existing stuff that's out there anyway.
well,
Theoretically, but I guess the point is, we'll see where it goes and where they go. I think this is a highly changing landscape right now,
It is.
yes.
and what they say today isn't what they're going to say tomorrow. And Google does have a history of putting things out there and then killing them.
Right.
So who knows what this is going to look like, a
Yep.
year from now. But
Yep.
this is what it says right now. Today, it's just a rebranding. I don't really interpret it as much else than that right now.
Well,
Yep.
I will tell you that this is the same kind of things that's going to be um guarded with those bumpers that we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier,
yeah.
right?
Right,
But
right.
as I've said before, and I'll say it again, it isn't going to be about AI and putting in a thing to say, hey, write me a story with these parameters. It's going to be about what the way AI is going to come into things is it's going to make things that we currently do slightly more useful, and it's going to creep in that
Yep.
way. That's where we're going to get it more and more. Like we see the advances with photo processing on smartphones. We like
Yeah.
like those kinds of things. That's where it's going to come in more than anything. These things are just going to be external services that somebody subscribes to, but
Well, one would
you
hope,
know,
but.
but that's what's
Well,
going to happen. That's where it's
and
coming.
the other thing is the marketing folks in all the areas out there. I mean, I was watching a TV commercial yesterday. It was a golf tournament, right? Callaway is an equipment maker for
Sure.
golf. So they have a new driver called AI Power something or other. So it's designed with AI, and if you miss the ball, if you miss it uses AI to correct it. They're already BSing
But
people.
they
I
but they've
mean,
already been. But the funny thing is they've used, I'll call it AI, to develop
called it
clubs
something
for
else,
quite a
maybe.
while now. Yeah, but
I didn't
really
notice that.
they've
No.
been doing that for a number of years
Well, that's
now
a large data model is what
in
they've been
developing.
doing. Yeah.
Right, they've been using a data model to develop clubs for a while, and the mistakes that people make in their swings and correcting for them, and all clubs have been designed that way for quite a while now. So It's
Yeah,
just
it's just funny
marketing.
that 6 months ago nobody heard of AI. I mean,
Yeah.
AI
Yeah.
as we know it
Well, we're
today,
tacking it
and
on the
all of a
name onto
sudden
everything.
everybody has to
Well,
talk about it.
yes and no, because if you look at my dryer that I have sitting in my laundry room right now, actually has an AI printed on the faceplate of it somewhere.
Yeah,
So I mean, this has been around for quite a while, for many years. Like
it
one of the
has.
first things I played with
Oh, we've all
was
talked about it, AI, even with
with these
Siri and
AI
Google
chatbot.
Assistant and all of that
Yeah.
stuff for years.
Well, these AI chatbots, which are like seemingly overtaking all the mobile ads, and it makes me sick.
Well,
Because
remember,
so many of them are focused on generating not safe for work images. Um, and in some of these AI tools, in the AI chatbots and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember. A Replica was the first one I ever played with, which at the very beginning actually was quite compelling, and it actually was making good decisions and stuff like that. But then they started wrapping in things like ChatGPT into it, and it's actually made it worse.
yeah,
So I mean, and what a lot of companies call as AI today really isn't AI. It's a large language model.
yep,
And if the
Right,
model
right.
doesn't have what you want to generate or do with it in it, then they
it,
can't do it.
yep, and that's what it comes down to. So again, I wouldn't get too excited about this rebranding. It doesn't mean much to me at this point, but
Yep.
we'll see
To
where it goes.
me, well, right now, to me, it feels like the latest version of Clip It.
Yeah,
Everyone remember Clip
yeah,
It? That's, by the way, that's the real name of Clippy. Clip It.
Clippy.
So that always got in our road, and if AI gets in our road, we're not going to use it.
no,
It's that simple.
that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, that's kind of cool, and we will see what happens with all of that stuff. But for right now, I would like to pause for this brief message. Hi, this is Christopher Spera with iTechGear.org, and I'm here to tell you that iTechGear.org and the iTechGear Weekly are on Patreon. Patreon is a platform for creators, allowing them to express their creative side in an organized, marketable fashion and earn a living or create a really cool kind of side hustle. You can create a community around your hobby of choice. You can gain followers. You can get members and supporters all along the way. You can create subscription products that, for a pledged amount every month, you'll provide to your members and followers. Setup is easy, prices are reasonable, and you can have your pledges auto deposited into an account of your choice every month. With iTechGear.org, our initial offering is a monthly newsletter for just $3 a month. This is our initial offering, and we'll have other tiers and other products and other offers up in the coming months. Become a patron of our site. Grow with us, and we'll provide you with the tech understanding that you're missing right now. Join us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/iTechGear. That's www.patreon.com/iTechGear. And we are back. And I want to go ahead and move us to our Windows segment now. This next story is, if you're an Apple fan like most of us here are, and if you're also a Windows user like most of us here are as well, and you try to bridge the gap between um those two camps, you'll be interested in this next thing. Apparently, iCloud for Windows has been redesigned, and an update to that has been released. And interesting enough, Apple Music and Apple TV apps that have been in preview for so long have exited preview. Now, Larry and Chris, talk to me about this. What's going on with this?
Well, I'm going to talk maybe just a little first about the iCloud app. And the gap that you just mentioned 5 years ago, it was a hell of a gap. I mean, it was a long stretch.
It was.
But quick reflection on how we got to where we are today with this app. First, it was, I think it was 2019, mid 2019, that this app first hit the Windows Store. And it was truly problematic. It was a POS. It never achieved a review rating more than 2 stars. And then a little less than 2 years ago, they, being Microsoft and Apple, released a new version of the iCloud for Windows app. And this one actually worked. It wasn't very pretty, but it worked somewhat. And because users then started installing it and using it, Apple and Microsoft got together and said, hey, we better make this even better because this is really getting some traction. So now they've re-released it. This one has some true Apple UI polish. But more importantly than just a pretty face, it has a UX or a user experience that's both useful and it's a pleasure. It's an actual fun app to use. And the new look for this thing the way it works, I should say, focuses more on making it clear to the user which Apple content is syncing with which devices. And they've also introduced a new onboarding process that has an actual progress indicator in it. And I did some research on my own on this, and it comes to pass that Apple is really big on progress indicators. They feel that a user definitely needs to know what's happening because left without a spinning wheel, left without the progress bar, the user panics and he pushes buttons like, oh my God, it's broken. I got to stop it. What am I going to do? So this calms the user down and the app just looks and works better. So anyway, other key changes I think are it works a whole lot better with Microsoft Photos. Before it was a little bit hard to sync your photos and know that they were synced. And they've added the physical security key support for Apple ID, and you can actually use a hard physical key. You'll have fewer sign-in prompts. It's just more than a pretty face. They've really made this a good app, I think.
Yeah,
So
and
what have they done in iTunes and in the iTunes area, Chris?
Well, we all know that iTunes was getting more than a little long in the tooth on Windows, to say the least. It worked not well. And it's still there, by the way. I'll talk about that in a second. But for a while, they've had Apple Music and Apple TV in sort of preview, and they've had a bit of a bumpy run. It's been going for, I want to say, at least a year in preview, maybe a little longer. But they've been okay. They're very similar to their Mac counterparts in their appearance. Their operation was a little rougher, mostly getting things to work reliably, because Apple DRM had to work correctly under Windows, all that kind of stuff, and it never worked that well under iTunes. So those kind of things. But now they've come out of preview. Now they're considered release products, and they work okay. There were some things I wanted them to fix that they did, and they added, and features that were missing that have been added in kind of weird ways, but they're there. Everything's there. The downside from my perspective of them, even though they're in release now, is, and I don't truly understand why they did this, they have not released ARM-based versions of them. And yes, the ARM-based Windows market is a small market, but the Apple versions are already ARM versions. How hard would it have been to make an ARM version for Windows? It seems to me that like, why did we not do this? But they didn't. And so there's really Intel only. And the Intel versions do not run on ARM. As a matter of fact, if you go into the Windows Store and you try to download them, it will tell you this is not for this platform. There are workarounds. You can get it to sort of launch, but it doesn't work very well under ARM. And so the question is, are they going to do that? Why haven't they done that? Are they looking, as a competition kind of thing? I don't know. I don't know why. It should seem to me that technologically it's not a hard thing to do, but they haven't done it. But they're out there. They work well. If you're using an Intel platform, they work well under Windows Intel-based things. And there's a third app in that suite, not only Apple Music and Apple TV, but in order to allow transfer to and from things like an iPhone or an iPad, there is also the Apple device kind of manager that's out there that allows you to connect your device via USB or whatnot in order to exchange data to and from those kinds of things. So that's out there. That's how they get around that. On a Mac, that's done in the Finder now. Basically, it didn't used to be. It used to be part of the whole iTunes suite, but now it's in Finder on a Mac. Well, there's a third-party app, that Apple releases for device management on Windows. One other key component of the whole thing is, again, it's all there. It all appears to work fairly well. The other component, though, is things like podcasts and other whatnots that were in iTunes are still in iTunes. So you still need iTunes, but iTunes will stop doing the TV and audio stuff because that's now in the other apps. So you'll get sort of a pop-up that says, hey, you don't go here for it anymore. But if you're doing podcasts, you still got to do, if you're doing podcasts, you still want to do it in iTunes. So you still quite haven't gotten rid of iTunes yet. But so there's now speculation as to whether or not there'll be a podcast app from Apple being released anytime soon. Nobody knows. That's the speculation, though. So that's kind of where we are with that. But they're out of preview now. So go play.
Right. And I will tell you that with those apps, those particular apps did not necessarily always function properly in the preview.
Well, that's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
Right. And that's some of the experiences that I had were it was an absolute disaster. Nothing played. The video, I can't get videos, or couldn't get videos to play. I couldn't get any kind of audio would come through from the video files, but it was all scrambled.
Yeah. I never had I had one-off problems with video where a certain video wouldn't play.
Not every video.
I never had everything, but I will say that in general, Apple Music worked better than Apple TV in general.
Yes.
And they seem to work fine now under the final release. I still think there could be a little more polish to them, in my opinion.
And they probably will get polished over time.
Yeah. But they're functional now. They're basically functional. I'm sure you could find a condition where they don't work. Like I said, they don't work under ARM yet. You could probably find certain hardware, combinations that they don't work correctly on, I'm sure. As everybody knows, the variety of hardware you have to deal with under Windows is much greater than the variety of hardware on a Mac. So it's a bigger task to make it work. It's a bigger task to make it work under Windows. I think this all comes down to Apple not wanting to lose, market share in Apple Music and the iTunes store. I think that's what it's all about. So there you go.
That argument that was made to Jobs years and years ago that actually got iTunes for Windows started is still relevant today, and probably will be for as long as Apple is Apple and go ahead, publishes music.
Well, you've heard me say I'd like to see them. You have Apple Music on Android as well. I'd like to see Apple TV, which does show up on Android TV devices.
Right.
I'd like to see it on actual Android phones and tablets.
Yes.
I'd like to see those products exist across the board. Because
I agree.
I know we talk a lot about the walled garden here, but again, as Apple has said itself, the future is in services, not in hardware. So give me the services. I want the services. Make them available everywhere for me, so I will stay subscribed to your service.
Yep, and I totally agree.
And this is a nice step toward that. This is a nice step toward it. So I'm happy to see it.
It is, and I am happy to see it as well. I do agree that watching any kind of Apple video on your Android device is a challenge at best. I don't know why they've got Apple Music for Android, but don't have Apple TV.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it, but because the mechanics are there. You have it on Android TV.
Absolutely,
it's the same underpinning. So why not release it? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it is what it is today. So
it is.
Please, Apple, do it. Release it.
If you're listening, hopefully, it would be nice. interestingly enough, Microsoft has also released a new app called PC Manager, and apparently it's kind of dodgy.
Yeah,
It's
that's
kind
what's
of dodgy.
yeah, right. So PC Manager is what's supposed to boost your performance and help with health checks and storage management and all those kinds of things, that we usually buy third-party apps for, right?
Right, right. And this is something that you might they have some of those apps, or applets, if you will.
Sure.
Small little things like defrag
Of course.
or disk cleaner, right? They've got some of those that are out there, and I'm not certain if PC Manager actually sort of pulls all that together, or if it's a completely new app with new code.
I am not sure either, but we linked to a story talking about it,
Yep.
and the concern that I had after reading that story, and I think Chris, you and I've talked about this as well,
Yeah.
is that there are places in this app where there are links they go off to like Chinese app sites,
Right.
and the question is
Why?
Why are you doing that?
Mhm.
And what do those apps do? That
Right,
so
because this is supposed to be part of Windows Core, right?
right. So why would you be doing that? And so I find that kind of confusing that you would go to these side companies or these side locations
Right,
for things that's a little bit questionable, or is
right,
there just something just not quite done in here, or somebody forgot to clean it up afterwards? I don't know.
right.
I don't know how to interpret this.
Right. There's also a deep cleaning option
Yeah.
that's supposed to clear out the contents of a special folder called the Windows prefetch folder. And Microsoft's got some conflicting information based in this particular app as well as on their site that says you don't touch that folder, right? Microsoft itself does not recommend you do anything with the Windows prefetch folder, all right? Because you know, removing its contents, deleting anything out of it could result in the opposite of what PC Manager or some other kind of management app actually promises to do. It could, instead of making your PC faster, it could actually slow things down. So
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, so the PC Manager is not built in, so to speak. It's in the Microsoft Store. It's in the
right,
App Store,
right,
and it's actually got a 4.4 rating, which is interesting as
Pretty
its
decent,
average.
really.
Yeah, which is really interesting considering some of these potentially questionable things that might be going on here. But it's like anything else, guys. Uh, it could potentially do some good for you, but it could also potentially do some harm. So, you know, what's interesting is you look right under the ratings, and one of the first ratings is in Chinese. So
Oh
I
yeah.
find
So let me just say this: your mileage may vary.
your mileage may vary.
Your
That's
mileage
my
may
point.
vary, unless you've got some, a lot of confidence, or somebody that's used this that you truly trust, or whether somebody at Microsoft that says, yeah, this is a legit thing. I would wait. I would hold off for now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like thou shalt not mess with the registry unless you've passed Regedit
Yeah.
101.
Yes, something
Right.
like that.
I'm kind of there with you. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are 15-year-old threads, or maybe even older threads out on Microsoft's official forums that say don't touch the Windows prefetch folder at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't do it, because you will greatly diminish or detrimentally affect the performance of your computer.
Yeah, well, it's all about caching and having things ready to go and
Right.
anticipating what you're going to do next. It's all about
Right.
that. So
Right, exactly. So
that's
I would not.
now on the upside, this is available on Intel and ARM.
And there you go.
There you go. So take it for what it's worth, folks.
So you've got that going for you.
Yep. Well. Hey, at least that's the case there. ARMS always, even on Linux, ARMS is kind of a second,
Yeah,
priority. Yeah,
it
like for
is.
example, good example is on my Raspberry Pi 5, I cannot load Google Chrome. I have to use Chromium, which I don't know if you know, but Chromium now has since removed the ability to synchronize your Google accounts. So it kind of makes it not as useful.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But again, I say ARM is coming, guys.
It is.
This is the year we're going to see a big push for Windows to be there. But I just put that out there as kind of some fun. But yeah, this app, look carefully. Look before you cross the road, guys.
Agree. Look before you leap, and
look before you leap.
And
exactly
if you
right.
have questions, reach out to any of us. If you've got questions, reach out to somebody that you trust. As far as a Windows expert is concerned, they will more than likely tell you what we're telling you now, which is either don't or wait or.
Well, we've got our own Windows expert, Larry. What do you think?
Well, I tell you what, I have actually already talked to our first level support team of folks, of which I'm part of for the Windows or the Mac side, but I do Windows support too. And I would not recommend this to our users. And I've told them already just what you said. I said, this, if you see this, be wary of it because it's new and it could do some things that you don't want done. Maybe selfishly, because if they break their PC with it, I know they're going to call us to fix it. So I don't want them to use it yet. I just don't.
Fair enough, Larry. Appreciate it.
Your mileage may vary, very, very, very. So there you go. And that, kids, is effectively the show. And I want to move us to our pick of the week segment. But before we get there, I just want to take a moment to remind everyone that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and actually used, and that we like enough that we want to recommend them to you, our growing listener base. These are not paid advertisements or items for which we have any other kind of affiliated marketing relationship with. If they were, the editorial policy at iTechGear.org indicates that we have to go ahead and disclose that information to you up front. Honestly, these are just things that we believe in, and we wish to bring them to you at the end of each show. Why?
Because we like you.
Oh, we didn't even rehearse that. That was great, guys.
Wow, that turned out good.
Good job. Larry, you've got the pick this week. What do you got?
I do, and it's a little bit different. As you said, our show picks are typically they really are. They're either techie gear or they're coffee gear. But,
True.
They're always things that we've purchased ourselves because we like and use them. But let me get serious for just a moment. What I have tonight is something that you really seriously need in your house. It's only $10. Each of them are $10. You cannot afford to not have some of these things in your house. They're called an emergency fire blanket. There's a lot of flavors of them on Amazon. The one that we have in our show links, again, we have absolutely no affiliation with this product, but it is rated the absolute best of anything out there. I know a lot of people that have them. I have them almost everywhere that I could have a potential fire. And I think if you're listening to us, you're either a technology enthusiast or you're more likely you're a full-on geek. So you're going to have an array of electronic and electrical devices in your home and office, and these are all potential fire sources. So you really need to have some of these handy in case you have a fire. We all say, no, it'll never happen to me. I'm not going to have a fire. Well, it can happen. These are 100% fiberglass. This is an important thing. If you're weighing this one that's $10 with its counterpart up on Amazon that's $8.99, make sure that one's also 100% fiberglass. The size of this is 40 by 40 inches, and this has been proven to be the most optimal size for a fire blanket. Don't get one that's a foot square because it's not going to work. It'll be cheaper, but it won't work. These things are useful for outdoor camping, barbecues, travel, any small to medium fire potential
Kitchen
hazard.
fires.
Yeah,
Kitchen
kitchen
fires.
fires. Big. You need fast extinguishing. Grease fires. I keep one in the storage area underneath my outdoor grill, especially since it's on a wooden deck and it's 20 feet off the ground. These fire blankets are easy to use. It just, you grab the tab, pull it out. It almost is it's packed in there, yeah, but it opens easily. You throw it over the fire source, cover the flames, wait a few seconds, and the fire subsides. So, folks, a fire blanket is not something for which you need a new use case. The use case is saving you from calling 911, telling them that your house is burning down. And
Right.
I'm going to throw in an example that I've mentioned to my cohorts here before. We had some dear friends lose their house to a fire just 4 or 5 months ago.
I was going to say it was a few months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And what happened? He was simply working. He's a car enthusiast. He was working on an old Corvette, and it was a carburetor fire. So it just got out of control instantly. This might have helped. I don't know, but if it was there and handy, he could have thrown it on. But
on the engine,
don't let yourself get into a condition or a situation like this. It's a few bucks.
Right.
This is, I don't know. I'm a believer in taking precautions before disasters
cheap,
happen.
easy precautions that will solve the actual problem. Now, some folks may be asking, and I don't want to go and belabor this too much, but some folks may say, "Hey, I've got a fire extinguisher. What's wrong with it?"
Well, first of all, they're never where you want them. The typical household only has 2 of them if they have any.
Yep.
And I'm guilty there too. Before I started carrying these, I only had 2. They were good ones. But you got to think for a second, where are they? These are in bright red packages. And what you do is you put them on a little hook anywhere in a room. They can be discreetly placed. So they're not, we're not trying to make a picture frame with them, but they're not ugly. On the other hand, your laundry room is a great place. Dryer fires.
Yep.
And if you dryer fires, according to the fire folks that I've spoken with, friends that work in volunteer fire department here, dryer fires are just horrible. I mean,
they're flash fires.
They happen so
that
fast.
lint goes up so quick.
Yep, so quickly, and then it burns down that pathway, that
pipe.
6-inch tube going out to the vent, and the whole house catches on fire. Just like that.
Yep.
So,
but
this is not a toy that we're talking about, though I do recommend it. Seriously, do yourself a favor, folks.
Right.
$10.
Fire extinguishers are difficult to use. They're never where you need them to be. They make a mess.
Oh, they make a big mess.
They make a horrible mess that takes a long time to clean up. All right. And then you've got to get them recharged because the chemicals don't last forever.
You have too. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are great to have. This is a great pick. Thank you, Larry.
You bet.
Thank you very, very much. And that, kids, that's the show for this Super Bowl week. This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 77. I want my pie to go from micro to mini. Recorded Monday, February 12th, 2024, live from iTechGear Central for Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin, Brother Joe McLaughlin, and Mr. Chris Gavula. I want to say we will see you next time.